Ayo, I'm Briar. To celebrate reaching 100 plus watchers on Deviantart, oh my gosh, I didn't think I would be saying that so soon. I decided to host a poll asking everyone to vote on what they'd like me to do. It was already kind of clear from the beginning. A lot of people went with the model creation video journal option, and it stayed in the lead for majority of the time the poll was live. This gave me some time to think about how I'd like to do this in between my intense final exam panic. Needless to say, though I will be doing a model creation video this time, the other options are still up for grabs on the next big event. I swear, if I reach 100 subs on this YouTube soon, I might cry from happiness, disbelief, or my right brain being completely McDonald's french fried. I don't know, take your pick, it'll probably be a mixture. Keep in mind, this isn't a tutorial, it's simply how I generally approach putting my OC models together, more specifically this OC since it changes with each one, as well as a few principles I tend to keep in mind while I do so. A lot of how I make models comes from what I find to be most convenient, as well as intuition that not everyone has. Everyone has their own method of making models, and if you're new to making models in PMX Editor, you'll find yours as well as given some time. If you'd like to know how I started stringing models together, then the video for that can be found on Albert or 180 Studios' channel. I'll link it in the info card or in the description below. I've also left some timestamps down there for certain parts of the video's process if people find that helpful. Now, let's get into making the model. I always go into making a model with a general idea on 3 things. First, their narrative, or at least general themes. I don't know whether or not it's common knowledge to have a story in mind while making models, but it definitely helps me out when deciding what to do with them. In the narrative I'd like to write, the world has a race of people who were once human, but through either being surrounded by an element for an extended period of time or dying by that element, they became a mythic creature related to that element. It's much more complicated than that, but that's generally how it goes. And by elements, I mean the basic Avatar elements: water, earth, air, and fire, not the periodic table ones. I'm not doing that to myself. Briar is a siren, the fishy kind, so she's connected to water. Milan is fae and connected to earth. North is connected to air as a witch, and Kite is connected to fire as, well, a phoenix. Each of my main 4 OCs fall under an element. However, there's a 5th element that isn't talked about as much. I was already planning to add it into the story despite it not being talked about in the main 4, but then I watched a video by, I'm gonna butcher this because there's no there are no tonal marks, 𝕊𝕋𝕸𝔼, that mentioned the 5 element system that The Last Airbender's creators found but didn't fully use. At least not until Korra, from my very limited and distorted understanding of the show. This system consisted of the typical fire, water, earth, and air, but it also included metal. So yeah, the character I'll be creating will revolve around the idea of metal. I also tend to pick a color for each of my characters to center around, so I don't go as insane when I eventually do pick the outfit, both for everyday look as well as for their other looks that I'll no doubt create. I tend to base the color schemes off of the rainbow, so red, orange, yellow, blue, and purple, I'm aware it's violet, are taken, which only leaves green and indigo. But look, I'm not making another basically blue model. That's a girl, at least. I have the element of color picked out, so now it's time to move into the next step. Personality. Who is my character going to be? I won't go into too much detail on this most of the time. Probably just 1 or 2 traits or hobbies that they're into, or even characters that they remind me of to serve as a launch board. At this point in the planning process, she was giving me Pidge and Futaba vibes, probably because of the green and techiness, so I'd like to think she's very techie and good with computers. It would be fun if she could be really into hacking and building computer programs. Maybe that could turn into a career later? Oh, and I think she's very well organized, like top of the class organized, one of those people who are like calm ducks on the surface of the water and frantically kicking underneath the waves. Then again, North and Briar are like that, so maybe she really is that calm. I kind of picture her as being a part of the student council or valedictorian when she was in high school. I think she has a super close relationship with her dad too, like the Powerpuff Girls and their father, Professor Utonium. Her father can also be a scientist like Professor Utonium, which I can use to my advantage later on because now I have an idea. I keep spitting out a few ideas like this before moving on to how she looks. Now, to be clear, when I ask myself what I want a character to look like, I don't ever mean clothing-wise. I'm talking about skin tone, hair color, eye texture, any special markings on their bodies, or supernatural aspects of the person. Basically, I operate on the principle that character isn't in the clothing. Character is in the character themselves. I knew from the start that I wanted to give her vitiligo. It's a skin condition where patches of skin have little to no melanin in them, so they've lost their pigment. Of course, This makes it most easily visible on darker skinned individuals, so she's going to have dark skin too, preferably darker in skin tone than my self models, since I always try to give my models a different skin tone each time I make them. Beyond the skin, I'm also going to give her green eyes. Originally, I wanted to go with brown, but the clothes I give her later might be very bright. If so, then that would draw attention away from her face to her outfit. I don't want that. The viewer's eyes should immediately be drawn to her face and then the outfit, or at least the whole model as a whole. So I went with the green option. I also want her eyes to be either camera-like or crystallized. I thought of a good double-edged sword for her backstory. When the little Baba was younger, she began to lose her sight until she was near completely blind. Her father, worried, worked together with his team of neurologists and optometrists, maybe even some magicians, to create either a camera or a crystal ball with a scrying spell on it that can replace someone's eyes. It records the environment around them and sends what it sees to the wearer's occipital lobe for processing via some sort of artificial routing. That's probably not very scientific, but this is how I'm planning to introduce metal into the actual character's person. The artificial eyes look real enough to pass as normal, so people don't really know that they're fake unless they stare at it for too long, too hard, or she tells them. One drawback of these eyes though is that they don't see color. Her father and his team are working on a new model for that, but it's taking some time and a lot of resources. Good thing they're getting pretty well off due to this breakthrough though. I think it would be cute if her father tries hard to stay in the loop on girls' fashion and color matching to help his daughter dress like she'd want to. I feel like it's adorable. One more thing, just cuz. I want to give her black hair with a green streak in it, sort of like Shigo from Kim Possible. Just cuz. Just cuz. Okay, that's a lot to work with, but doable. The hardest part might wind up being the skin. I'm not a professional at drawing, so I'll have to see how it goes. I'm worried that it won't turn out very convincing, but what can I do? Everything else, I'm confident I can do. There's a pretty set list of things I pull from DA when creating the base. The base, the face, skin texture, eye texture, hairstyle, hair texture, beauty marks, tattoos, so on, and any tunes, spas, or spheres. For the base so far, I've only ever used the one by 𝕊𝕊𝕄𝔼. Even the base that I used to create Madame's model, my self-model's mother, is an offshoot of this base that was made by 𝕊𝕋𝔸𝕄ℎ𝕊. I really love this base because it separates the facial features into different body parts and nearly everything into their own separate parts. This allowed me to easily give my models painted fingernails, change their face irrespective of their eyes, make changes to specific body parts, and more. I know I can separate the meshes myself using the UV editor plugin, but dear geez, if I can save myself some pain, I'll do it. My number one principle when creating models is probably to make them as unique as possible. Whether that's editing textures, changing the UV mapping, using ad sets only available for a limited time, adding new ones, changing the face, yada yada yada, so on, whatever. I always try to aim to make characters true to my original idea of them, but also kind of hard to recreate exactly. I think it adds an extra layer of special to them when there's something unique to them. However, if I can cut a corner without messing up the final product, honey, I will do it. I don't care. I can only handle so much self-torture. After grabbing the base, I get a face edit that I think matches up to the idea of the character. I wanted to use the one African-American face edit I found for her, so I didn't put as much thought into the eye shape and so on as I usually would. After the face edit, I get the skin and eye textures I'd like to use. Then, the hair. I know that I want to use Sims 3 to MMD converted hair by 𝕊𝕊𝕄𝔼, but a friend actually redid the physics of it, so I'll be using her version of it instead. A quick shout out to Cyanic MMD for the physics. She does an amazing job with hair physics and edits, plus she's super nice and wants to see more diversity in MMD community when it comes to race as well. Okay, so at this point, I'm finished searching for assets for the base specifically. I didn't find any tunes or spheres I wanted to use, so I just transfer everything over to my flash drive and head over to my PC to get everything situated in PMX editor. Organization, when it comes to models, especially when you switch out outfits very often, is very important. So I always organize my folders with the character's name and versions after it for my models if they have multiple outfits. Within that folder, I make a photo titled their name and then the general idea of the outfit I'm aiming for. And then within that folder, this is complicated. So I put everything that has to do with the regular base, the TDA base, in its PMX file in the main folder, and then I create another folder called base assets or whatever the outfit idea name is, and then throw everything that I downloaded for that specific outfit in there. And whatever PMX files are in those folders, I drag those PMX files into the main folder so that it can actually load into MMD and work and I don't get the ghost glitch. I take 𝕊𝕊𝕄𝔼's TDA base that I already chopped the head off of long ago and moved it into the folder along with all the assets I might wind up using. Keyword, might. Like I said before, I am indecisive. I loaded in the base, the face, and then the textures, checking to see if the model worked in MMD. It did, but I wasn't happy with the skin texture. My PC monitor made it look exceedingly dead, and I hated it. It would mess with my ability to make the outfit later on, as well as renders, so I searched for another skin and settled on a different texture that was more vibrant and warmer on my PC. I'll be changing the texture later to give her vitiligo, but for now, the eyes. The eyes I downloaded before weren't working right per se. They looked too doll-like for me given that they had a lack of a clear pupil. They looked good on her, but this would have been a better eye for Madame or North, whose eyes are clouded over from using their magic a lot. But my green girl should have more normal looking eyes. People shouldn't be able to tell or suspect they are fake unless they examine them too long or if she tells them, if you remember from my earlier planning part. Darkening another set of eyes that I downloaded worked better and seemed more natural. While you're in PMX, it's always a good idea to save multiple versions of your model. I always follow the format of their name, the general outfit idea, and then the next number in a sequential sequence starting from 1. Each time I do something major, I save as a different model. So I loaded up the base, face, and textures for the model. Okay, that's green base 1. Later when I do the hair, that might be green base 2. This is very beneficial because things often go wrong in MMD. Physics might get messed up, you might decide you dislike a part and want to remove it easily. Heck, you might want to change the hair on your model down the line without dealing with physics or creating the model completely from scratch again. Basically, don't overwrite your base and constantly save during each major change. Now, for the skin. I took the skin I put on the model and another skin that was by the creator of the face edit to create this result. It took me like 2 to 3 hours to do this, but after a few separations of materials, I was able to create something not accurate to how vitiligo really looks, but still cool nonetheless, I think. I decided to make it asymmetrical instead of symmetrical, like how it might be at her age. To be clear, all of my characters so far are at least 19, with North being the youngest, though she's the tallest, and 𝕊𝕋 technically being the oldest, though she's canonically the shortest. I read somewhere that vitiligo becomes more symmetrical the older a person gets, but I didn't want a symmetrical design. The hair I'm using is pretty heavy on her left, so having the pigment loss mainly on her right side balances the hair out. Speaking of hair, I loaded up Cyanic's re-rigged version of it and loaded in all the textures for each friggin' strand. There were a lot of strands. I loaded in the extra hair with the black texture. I had to reposition the UV map on these to make it so that I could see the strands of her hair coming down. By one, I loaded in all the textures. Then, I had to reload in the secondary hair for the highlights and make them green. You know, just loading in all those textures. One by one. I loaded up MMD and it crashed as soon as I tried to put the model in. I was about to yeet a glitch. If MMD crashes when you put a model in, that means somehow you screwed up the joints. After checking my model to see if there were any joints that didn't look like they were connected to the hair, I went, all these boxes look important. Let me just... I put the hair in MMD and immediately it crashed. Just on its own. So I contacted Cyanic. She fixed it, but by that point I'd already finished making the model. So I'll be doing other versions of the model with this hair later on. All is not lost. I just wanted to try to make this model in one day because I'm a busy child, okay? Well, I'm not a child anymore. Anyway, before I get into an existential crisis, by the time of filming, this girl got no hair. This girl got no head. She took the idea of bald and ran with it. Her wig and her scalp got fully snatched. Basically, she needs to revisit the hair salon. Do you realize I'm saying these things in jest and I mean no harm to Cyanic? Things like this happen in MMD all the time, and if anything, I think it was a happy accident. The hair theft gave me an excuse to try out some other hairs on my girl. which is important. For me, hair helps to get a picture of the model's personality and character in my head. I don't have the best facial perception, so hair is often how I recognize people and characters. That's why I'm careful not to give them hairstyles that are too similar to each other. Goddess forbid the same texture. I'd confuse myself. I wound up liking the twin tails look, but it seemed too childish for a 19-year-old top-of-the-class hacker gamer scientist daughter, possibly friendly rival character that has very little time in her schedule to do her hair in the first place because, oh my gosh, wash days are horrible. So I chopped off one of her ponytails. There was nothing else for me to do at that point besides throw her into MMD to test her one final time. Multiple times, like a true MMDer who's proud as heck of their work and just wants to see the model dance because it's cute. Oh my goddess, I love her! Now that I have the base made, I save the final version of her and start moving into the clothes. This part, I can't explain what the heck happened here. A lot of how I put clothes together comes from intuition and inspiration. When one fails, the other actually fails too, but basically I follow the same principles with characters' outfits as I do for real life ones. Try to tie colors back into the outfit when they show up only a few times, never skimp out on accessories, make some colors pop, have a statement piece, whatever, and so on. But not everyone grew up in a household that shopped together for fun, nor did they spend most of their childhood wanting to be a fashion designer and actually make clothes and play clothes-related video games. I've been raised with the idea that clothes and accessories have power and should be a source of confidence. How I choose to orchestrate an outfit for the day usually helps me to get through them, mostly because I see my outfits as grounding extensions of my personality, and sometimes how I view the day. I tend to see the outfits my characters casually wear in the same way. For this model, I wasn't sure how to extend her personality out to her clothes. I had an idea of making her preppy, but nothing I was trying worked out. I also tried making an athletic type outfit for her, but I wound up hating it immediately, and I scrapped it so flippin' quick. I don't think her schedule would be free to be an exercise buff anyways, though I do picture her probably having a pretty healthy lifestyle where she runs nearly every morning and eats granola for breakfast. Eventually, I took a break from searching for clothes to get a good look at Pigeon Futaba again, as well as watch a few urban dance videos for inspiration. I also tried surfing Pinterest. It wasn't that helpful, but I did find some very nice outfits on there. After about 3 hours of what felt like it, I tried a few more articles on her and slowly I began building the outfit I wanted. I ran into some problems but found ways to work around them. Eventually, it came time for me to add accessories, which again, I never skimp out on. Don't skimp out on accessories. They help so much. The Control Z earrings were too cute and fit the hacker vibe, so I definitely added them. I also thought that the lock necklace filled in the white space on her chest as well as alluded to that particular hobby of, hacking, breaking down firewalls, the usual. I also gave her glasses because I felt like her face was missing a little something. I don't think that the glasses really serve her like normal glasses because of her eyes, they're artificial. She just probably likes the way they look on her, and that's fine. People just choose clothes because they like them. And, well, okay, she's done.
Strange world, hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take. I'm a new soul. I came to this strange world, hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take. I'm a new soul. I came to this strange world, hoping I could learn a bit about how to give and take.
So that's how I went about creating my green model. I decided to name her Callan. It means the ideal perfect physical and moral beauty, or a beauty that is beyond skin deep. Callan is a smart, driven girl with a lot of heart, though others might not perceive her as such at first glance because of her position of life as a renowned scientist's daughter and, well, top of the class. I think she'd be in a friendly rivalry with Briar and North, with all of them being competitive, probably just within one of their classes or within a specific video game. She's hecka busy most of the time, so the others don't see her too often unless they schedule that in, but they all make an effort to make sure she's included and not perpetually drowning in work. She also talks to her dad almost every week to keep up with him and assures him she's doing well while she's away from home, because I do imagine all these characters to kind of be in college or something similar to college. Her character is still a work in progress, and I'm not sure what I'll keep and what I'll dismiss, but I'm really happy with what I've done with her design. Hopefully you guys are too. That said, I want to thank you all again for 100+ watchers on DA. It means a lot to me that people like my work. If you're new, please like and subscribe if you're interested in the content I make here or on DA. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for now. So I hope you guys have a wonderful, pleasant day, a blessed day if you're religious, and happy model making.